So it's actually really nice that we have Yasmin, who's chosen to stay in Australia, and Jhonna, who's decided to come home to Canada. So you get both aspects of that, because I know that's often a big choice that our students have, that our graduates have, is what are they going to do. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to chat a little bit about the beginning of the journey. So what made you choose Australia? I'll start with you, Jhonna, if you don't mind.
Sure. Well, to be quite frank, I didn't get into medical school in Ontario on my first go, and I knew I only ever wanted to be a doctor. So I started researching, what is the best option for me moving forward if I don't want to wait another year, 2 years, 3 years applying to Ontario. So I did a little bit of Googling. I looked at the States, I looked at Caribbean, I looked at Australia, I looked at Ireland. And honestly, when I found Austrac, I was like, okay, this seems like a very, kind of assisted approach for me to take, as opposed to me feeling like I'm just floundering everywhere. So, and I also found that there was a higher rate of matching back in North America by going to Australia in comparison to the Caribbean, which does remain a true statistic, where about 60% of people in MD programs in Australia end up matching back in Canada if they decide to apply, which is fairly good for internationally trained. So I was very happy with that. Also, when you looked at the exchange rates of the US dollar, Australia actually ended up being cheaper compared to going to the States as well. So there was quite a few factors. I'd always wanted to see Australia, those types of things. So, there was a whole bunch of things that went into it, and I just took the leap, and yeah.
And here you are.
Yeah.
Awesome. And what about you, Yasmin?
Honestly, so many similarities. So I'm surprised that Jhonna and I haven't crossed paths in the past before. I felt quite similar. So I always knew I wanted to do dentistry. That had been, I think, a given for probably decades, even before I decided to do it. I had a number of family members who were in dentistry, and I just loved the environment and everything that they did. And for me, when I was graduating or finishing my final year, I was actually planning to do a master's at Western as well, but with the intention of applying to dentistry in Canada or maybe America the year after. And I happened to speak with a friend of mine who was a year ahead of me, and she had gone through the process with Austrac, and she had been accepted for dentistry the year prior, but she pushed her acceptance to the year that I ended up joining dentistry as well. And while we were speaking about it, she said, if you do your master's, that's great. You'll start in September, you'll finish next September, and then you can do dentistry wherever in the world you'd like in the year following. But why not just apply to dentistry in Australia in the interim? Mostly because if you're already considering moving either across the country in Canada to study, or you're considering moving to America anyway, what's really the difference of applying to another country on the other side of and as well, very similar to what Jhonna said, when I was looking at fees for international students in America versus in Australia, because the Canadian dollar is very similar to the Australian dollar, it just made more financial sense to consider studying here. And to be completely honest, when I applied, I hadn't thought through what I would do if I had gotten in. And so I got the acceptance, and we had a big conversation with my family about, do I follow my dream, move countries, do this, or should I still just stay, do the master's that I planned to do, try, next year, figure out a plan to be able to stay close to home and what I'm familiar with. But honestly, I am so happy for the decision. I can't speak more highly of the decision to move to another country to do it, and also the Austrac team, because I wouldn't have been able to do it without you guys. But yeah, that's what led me here to Australia.